What's up, guys and gals? Welcome back to the Nerd Castle. Today in the world of indie games, we're going to be taking a look at a survival title called Dawn of Defiance. This is a game that takes place in the land of the gods in Greece, and I guess the gods have done something that has generally upset the balance of stuff that exists, and so you, being a hoplite, have been sent over here, or you've been called over here to kill Hades at the end of the day. That's the entire point. So today we're going to be taking a look at the game for about 30 minutes. We're going to see if it's something you wanted to add to your wish list, or if it's one of those games that you would rather not play. If after watching this, I got a link for you down below in the description, and then from there, I got to fall back because I'm getting my ass kicked by like a mega super troll over here, and I don't know long-term how that's going to work out for me. But down there, you'll also find a link to my Discord and my Twitch stream on the day this video goes live. I'm going to try to stream. Hopefully, it'll go up on Sunday. If it doesn't go up on Sunday, then it will go up on a different day that's sort of like Sunday. So if this goes up on Saturday, I'll be live with it on Sunday, basically. I don't really know how to fight this guy. This guy tear out. Okay, yep, that's my entire health bar. Let's fall back one more time. Just get a little bit of cover. But for now, this has been one of those games that really surprised me. It didn't really get me hooked until I gained the ability to do this. And that's when I realized that this game was kind of attacking survival games from a very different direction. And so as you do the labors of the gods, and as you take out all of the random shrines, and as you fight monsters, and as you go about and bring glory to the gods on your way to kill Hades and ultimately really upset the gods, I don't know. I'm a little bit confused as to the overall narrative here as of right now. You're going to get special abilities. So for example, my character right now is completely... Oh, there's a pig eating my butt cheek. Fantastic. As of right now, I'm completely and totally immune to fall damage. When that was the first ability that I picked up, I figured that that was a little tiny bit underwhelming. But as I got further on into the game, I got the ability to fly. I can do like an air glide type deal. And so they start giving you some fun little utilities to play around with, and I'm really excited about seeing what comes next. I don't know if this troll is quite ready for us to take him down yet, but it made for a pretty good intro to the video. Having just landed in the land of the gods, there's like this 3 or 4 hour, I guess for me playing solo anyways, I get the feeling that this game is meant to be played in multiplayer just because a lot of things have a lot of soaky HP to them, and a lot of things seem to be like 10v1s and stuff like that, but if you get okay at the combat, you'll be able to work your way through it. I've been playing solo this entire time, and I have just landed on this new map after having defeated the champion of some kind of portal that takes me to the realm of the gods. And so I've got basic equipment that I've crafted up for myself. I've got basic spears and bows and things like that. But the first thing that we really need to do, as with all survival games, is we need to chop down some trees and we need to build ourselves a hut for the maximum middle finger to the gods because, you know, I pulled up on their property and now I'm just going to squat in this place in my double wide trailer. So let's get started with that because I do think that building is an important aspect of any survival game, whether or not it feels good, whether or not the snapping feels all right. What you're seeing right here is the chopping animation. Feels decent. It's better than what I've seen in a lot of asset flops, and it feels like it has impact and weight to it. Only downside is that when you are doing random tree chopping and mining and whatnot, it does deduct from your stamina. That's one of my little pet peeves about survival games. It doesn't make the game better or worse. Just for me personally, I don't like it when chopping down trees and stuff is limited by the stamina that my character has available. But there are many different trees to chop. There's ores to gather. All of that standardized survival stuff is going to be in here. And the game does incorporate a number of level up mechanics here too that will make that process a little bit smoother or easier. So pretty much everything you do in this game has a level up equipped to it. Everything from my god powers, like the ability to glide, that levels up whenever I do it. Your bows level up when you use bows. Your spears level up when you use spears. When you pick flowers, you get levels for that. There's no skill trees or anything else right now that I've seen so far, but you do get little perks at certain junctions that will give you bonuses to the activity that you're actively trying to do at the moment. For right now, though, we just need to pop a squat and make it so that we can build up a place that we can rest and recuperate and make utilities and supplies, just in case things get ugly, because that troll was the first enemy that I've run into on the land of the gods, or the island of the gods, and he was a little bit chunkier than I expected, so let's get after it. For right now, I'm going to start out with thatch foundations, because I don't really have anything else available right now. I would love to be living inside like a governor's mansion made entirely out of marble, but that's just not where I'm at the game right now. So I'm going to go ahead and put down a foundation out here. I'll probably deconstruct that one right there to get my stuff back. And then we'll come back over here. We'll knock that out. We're going to have a little bit of a high-rise going on the front end of this, so maybe we'll put the door on this side. Building in this game feels pretty much identical to Valheim, along with like the level up system that I've been playing around so far. In fact, you can tell that they took a lot of inspiration from Valheim in the construction of this game. But what's nice about it, what I've been enjoying is I don't think we've ever really had a Greek survival game, or at least a survival game based on Greek mythology thus far in indie gaming. And so that's what's kind of drew me to it, as I saw in some of the videos that you were getting special powers and building up in the Bronze Age, and I really, really liked that idea. Conan Exiles kind of gets close to that Bronze Age vibe, but this one hits it dead on the nose, and unfortunately, I've run out of thatching here. I can say from my time playing the game over the last 3 or 4 hours that the building does feel snappy, it does feel tight, and it does feel really, really easy to get things rotated or into the spots that you actively want them to go. It has not been a problem so far, and in the past, this has been a recurring issue with survival games, is just that the building doesn't feel altogether that great, or you've got to like weasel around with rooftops, you've got to weasel around with various aspects of the building in order to get it to do what you want. That has not come up one time in the moderate amount of building that I've been doing. This is my second base that I'm going to be building up during today's video. Hasn't really been a problem, and everything's been pretty easy to figure out so far. The only downside that I've run across is that when you're placing doodads like beds or workbenches or anything else inside your base, if the ghost itself of where you're going to be placing that thing is particularly bright or difficult to ID, it can be difficult to figure out which side of it is facing forward. So for the bed right there, I have no idea which way that's facing, and apparently it was facing that way. There is a day and a night cycle to this game. There are also weather patterns that'll blow in from time to time. Sometimes they give you status effects and stuff like that that you have to deal with, like diminished stamina regeneration or something else like that. But now that we've got our base of operations set up and I've got myself a respawn point, I think it's time we strike out into the Great White Yonder and try to find ourselves a little piece of adventure just to put some action on the board before we get back to building up this base and getting all the crafting benches and forges and things of that nature built in order to advance our character through the game. This guy right here is the sort of oracle that guided us to this land, and he's going to give you tasks that are basically just fetch quests along the way. But those fetch quests, if you're doing them anyways and you're working on stuff out here in the world, they do give you a fat grip of coin, and then from there he acts as a vendor that will sell you legendary recipes that allow you to get the really, really cool mythical looking gear. For now, though, close to our spawn point, this game does a really good job of generally highlighting where you're supposed to go or like what things are going to be a point of interest for you. There's a little castle or like a temple or some kind of facility up here on the hill that I was able to see back in from where I spawned into the new map, and so I figure we'll go up there and just see what is on offer. All kinds of things are out here in the world. If the first island is anything to go off of, which I already completed, the first island had treasure chests. It had kind of these strange puzzles where you had to offer, I guess, ambrosia to the gods, and then once you've done that, like chests that are hidden on the map would unlock. Oh, it's a portal gate. How tough are these guys? Are these guys scary? I don't have any arrows. They're soldiers of Apollo. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Are they going to want to square up? You guys want to do this thing? Like, are we boogieing right now? Okay, they don't seem that tough. Go ahead and dodge out of the way real quick. They're going to be throwing javelins at me, too, because that was pretty popular for this time period. Okay, all right. A little bit of a stagger right there. Ow! And then catching that javelin from way over there is kind of a pain, too. Let's get over here and see if maybe we can get these guys kind of line of sight broken. I'm going to drink a potion real fast. The potion is not going to heal me as fast as I would like it to heal me. It kind of heals you at the rate of like a swallow potion from The Witcher. Okay, not too bad, not too bad. We got a little bit of damage off. There are perfect parries in this game, but the combat in general I don't think is the strongest part of this title. The combat is like serviceable, but it is considerably clunky. Ow. Okay, all right. I can't let this guy throw javelins at me, but I also need to, like, eat some meat real fast. Tactical meat snack. Got to get that back up on the board. Fly away. I'm faster than... Okay, all right, fair enough. I need something that breaks line of sight over here for these javelins. That's what I really need. Let me get some health back. Man, that guy is winging javelins at me from up on the hill over there. actually problematic. Is your health still low? Yeah, his health is still low, so that's good. Let's pull him back behind this rock so that I can't get hit with ranged attacks. That other dude appears to have gotten stuck back there. That's fine. I just wanted this guy dead. He dropped hide sticks, or hide strips. Not super helpful. I was hoping for, like, ore or maybe something with a little bit more utility. They've got way nicer gear than I have. They're over here, like, in full-on Loricas and whatnot, whereas I'm not. That guy bugged out, which honestly probably helped me more than anything else has helped this entire time. And as I said, the combat AI and the combat are not going to be the strengths here. In general, combat is kind of flinchy and a little bit weird, and like there's lots of stun lock animations that just like hold you in place and things of that nature. Loosey-goosey and is probably going to need an overhaul before I would admit that the game has good combat or anything that resembles good combat. For example, you can see the delay right there when I perfect parried. It takes a second for the mob to recognize that they've been perfect parried, and I don't know if that has to do with the fact that this game it doesn't explicitly require an online connection. I know that because I tested this. I went live and played the game without my internet connected. The Shrine of Apollo is locked. Okay. And it did allow me to load into single player and play the game. So I don't think it has anything to do with latency, but if it's that bad in single player without the internet turned on, one can only imagine how bad it's going to be if you're playing with 4 friends over peer-to-peer or otherwise playing on servers if the game actually has those. I actually didn't have time to check and see if it's peer-to-peer or if it's hosted by their servers back over there. But my point is here that the combat could definitely be tighter. The combat could be way more responsive. It could feel more tactile. It could have more impact. Combat is definitely going to be the weaker part of the game here from what I've seen so far outside the other mechanics, which all seem to be done quite well and thoughtfully. However, that being said, the game does offer a single-player experience. You do get to choose your server settings at the beginning, or your air-quote server settings for a solo session. When you first start out, you can decide on enemy mob health multipliers, damage multipliers, and stuff like that. So you can fool around with it, and as a special surprise for a game like this that has a single-player mode, it also lets you pause the game if you just go to the options. I didn't expect that. Almost universally, games like this that are either solo or online play, they don't let you pause the game, but I was really happy to see that. While wandering around the map, which is exactly what I'm doing right now, I've never been on this map before, I just beat the previous one. Being on this map for right now, every now and again you're going to see a point of interest. If you get inside of like 300 meters of it, it'll give you a question mark and a pointer like you can see on the compass at the top of the screen. I'm going to go investigate this one because typically these are usually either shrines or they're treasures or there's something else that's either going to unlock a whole bunch of blueprints or set you off on some kind of task that will give you a little bit of focus. What's going on over here? What is this? It's like a Shrine of Apollo or something. The map has a sum total number of shrines, and if you light them all up, the door to that god's... Yeah, it's a brazier of Apollo. When you light up enough of these, that door that we saw over there, that was a Shrine of Apollo. That door will open, and there'll be some rad piece of equipment inside of it, or some kind of, like, spell or utility, like my flight right here. This was how I got my flight ability, was by lighting those braziers over there on the first island. What's this? Treasure chest with 250 gold doubloons inside of it. Yeah, that sounds fine, just fine. I was hoping for a little bit more of an action-packed adventure, but if they just want to heap free stuff on top of me, I'll take that too. Unfortunately, there are a number of boars over here that really seem to have an argument for me existing, so I'll go ahead and throw that up right there, and then we'll see if we can put them down. Oh, these boars are a little bit tougher than the ones on the previous island. I got myself level 4 spears, though, so that's good, dude. I'll take just about every bonus to my damage I can possibly get for right now. Why did I see a damage number over here? What's happening on this side? Are those like tigers? What's happening over here? Wolves? Oh, the wolves were fighting with the boars, so I guess there's infighting programmed into the AI as well. I will take every single one of those. Oh, yeah, look at that. They're hunting the deer and whatnot while they run around, too. The only weird thing I've seen there is that when it comes to, like, the animations of the animals, they get all weird and choppy in their animations once they get, like, a certain distance from you, and that distance is pretty short. I went through the graphical options to figure out exactly what was causing it, because I know that that's usually programmed on purpose to save frame rate, is they just get rid of the number of the frames inside of the animal's animation. But when you see them walking in the distance, it looks really wonky. It kind of looks like they're popping and locking while they're moving around, and it happens at a shorter distance than you would expect, and I haven't been able to fix it just yet. A little bit of copper laying around on the side of the road, too. Considering I'm using tools right now that I whittled out of flint just to get here, I should probably take some time and gather all this stuff up. Mining feels pretty good. Animation looks pretty good. Sound design is pretty good for both that and lumber chopping. I don't really have any complaints. Copper acquired, and the game does give you AoE suction on any resources that are on the ground just by holding down a key, which saves you the tiresome, I guess, dance of trying to pick up objects individually. Oh, it's getting all... Uh-oh. What's up with the weather, dude? Nothing good ever happens when the weather does this. Where am I right now? Oh, I'm going into the dark forest. Is this a place that I should not be? There's different biomes. So far, I've seen like a desert. Is that a dead guy right there? What is that? There's a boar. All right, I'm gonna get the boar. Oh, there's one of these little, there's like these little Pictish dudes running around. I don't know exactly what they're supposed to be, but they're like little cavemen guys that eat human flesh, all right? I found one of their caves on the previous map, and nothing good happened inside that cave. It was just a long song and dance of murder. Sometimes on me, sometimes on them. I can get ferns. Do I want a fern? Oh, it just gives me thatch. All right, well, what is this spot over here? Well, it's not the point of interest that I was looking for. What are you? It's tin, actually. So this is the stuff that I need in order to make bronze. Sometimes what'll happen when you're mining the nodes, this game is very much in early access. Sometimes when you're mining the node, it will disappear like that. It's still there. Just keep swinging. It threw me for a loop the first time I saw it. We'll chalk that up under visual bugs. So the point of interest appears to be another shrine. Unfortunately, it's guarded by some of these little lost dudes over here. And there are multiples of them. Okay. That one's got a bow. I think I can probably live with that. Love that shield sound effect. For how wonky the combat feels, I love the way the shield sounds when I block somebody. Get him with a strong stab right there. What do you want to do? There we go. Got him. Ambrosia dust. I'm gonna need that to bribe the gods and get them on my side. I think, is this a treasure chest over here? What do we have? Oh, it's just another shrine of Apollo. All right, I'll light it up. Might as well while I'm in the neighborhood, since it's one of those things that I'm supposed to be doing. Get him with a big stab right there when he tries to weapon swap on me. I think we're coming up on nighttime right now too, but I've really liked the graphics of the game, like the way that they've modeled this imaginary fantasy version of Greece. I've never been to Greece, but it feels like Greece. It looks really rocky. It kind of looks like an excerpt from, you know, the movie Troy. Man, this forest is like chock-a-block with these little dudes that want to murder me. I've had to repair my weapon multiple times inside of here. This game does feature gear durability, so you are going to have to worry about that as you play through. I actually don't have a lot of health on me right now. I'm regenerating like minorly, but I'm going to have to run away from these dudes and get a health potion in me. Drink the health potion real quick. They're staying on me pretty good, though. They're being pretty aggressive in their deployment of violence. There goes another one. I'll take his resin. I don't have my spear out for some unannounced reason, and I'm going to need my spear. There we go. Take that out. There you go. Perfect. Got that guy right there. It's pretty hot and heavy inside this forest. It's been kind of a non-stop cavalcade of things trying to murder me. Let me eat a meat steak real fast. It's also getting kind of foggy and dark and scary out here. I think we may have stayed in a little bit too long. As I was saying, repairing your gear is really easy in this game. Your gear can break. It doesn't have very good durability, but then again, I've mostly been using like stone and wood tools so far. And so when they break quickly, I haven't been that upset about it. I need to get some feathers. If I can get some feathers, I can get my bow back up and kicking because I have flint arrows that I can make back at my workbench. And those hit for a decent amount to... Oh my god, it is dark and creepy in here. Alright, well, back home I guess we go. So now that we're back at home, I traveled all day and all night, it's probably time for us to get some basic facilities up and running like I had back at my old base. And so we're going to need a butchery bench. That's going to allow us to process all the carcasses we take from our hunts and the things that we kill. We're probably going to need to have a tailoring station. It looks like I need some hide strips and I need some animal bones in order to get that done. So that shouldn't be too bad. We'll just throw the boar on there so that it's processing and getting done. I do have bones, and I do have hide strips inside my storage. No, the game does not craft from inside of your storage, in case you were wondering. So you've actually got to do inventory management inside of this one. Take that or leave it as you may. But with our crafting bench here, we'll get that all nice and set up. There we go. So we've got our crafting station ready to go. We're also going to need a tailoring station before we can go too much further for making better armor, because right now I'm just wearing leather armor, which is like the first set in the game that they give you after you unlock a couple of shrines. Probably wouldn't be the worst plan to get a tannery rack. These are pretty stinky in real life, so I'd probably put them outside the house. But, you know, our character does what our character does, and that leaves us with pretty much the grinder as the final thing that we need to acquire, which allows us to find ambrosia crystals and grind those up. Ambrosia crystals are kind of a currency in this game that you can use for trading, or that you can use for making powerful gear. It's pretty much a reagent in anything that's going to require a magical reaction. Now that we got the base built up a little bit, and we've actually got like a fallback spot, it has not gone unknown to me that I don't really have any recipes to support that or advance my character, so I'm thinking we just got to look around the map a little bit more. Now, when I was playing earlier, every single recipe that I ever unlocked either came from a shrine that I lit, or it came from a giant golden treasure chest or a big stone coffer that was just kind of around the map at points of interest, so I think we're going to have to hunt those things. Another suggestion that I would have is that 300 meters is a little bit too shallow for pointing out points of interest to the player. There are easy ones to pick up, for example, like that giant shrine over there to Zeus, obviously, and like that temple that's on the hill. Those beg for your eye to find them, but for the little shrines and whatnot, sometimes you got to get pretty close to them, and the map is fairly large and beefy inside this title, and so I have no doubt that I've probably walked past a couple and missed out on my bonuses. Here's one right here that we found along the way. I do have ambrosia dust on me, so that's going to be our 5th shrine. Is there like a cave or anything down here? Sometimes there are caves with like treasure chests and things inside of them. I'll just hover down and look. I don't see any caves on the mountain face. This is actually kind of a genius idea, this glide right here that they gave to the player. If you think about it from a game design perspective, the glide that they gave over to the player effectively means that like they don't need to worry about people getting stuck because you can just glide your way out of anything, which is kind of cool. What the hell is this thing? Overlooking portals. Gain the blessing of Hermes. Does it, like, make me faster or something? Or does it, like, make me fly super quick? What did that do? It gave me a new icon, but I don't know what the icon does. Yeah, so it actually boosted up my sprint speed, which makes sense because Hermes was, like, what, the messenger of the gods? And so it makes sense that we would be swift after we have his blessing. I don't know how long that's going to last for, but I do feel like I run a lot faster right now, so that should be good for leveling up my athletics. I don't know if you gain XP based on, like, the distance that you've traveled, or whether it's based on just stamina usage. Well, I'm going to take a rough guess what happened up here. I don't know exactly what's waiting for me, but I think I have a pretty good idea what might be up here. Should we go proffer the favor of Zeus? I'm going to pop an early health potion just in case. They last for 3 minutes, so, like, I've found most of the food buffs and whatnot in this game actually last for a reasonably decent amount of time, so you don't have to worry about them. Of course it's going to rain. Why wouldn't it be raining when I approach the Shrine of Zeus? Well, there's bad guys over here. Ow, what was that? Oh my god, what are you? Okay, we don't get iframes on our dodge, so that's going to be a little thing to keep track of. Yeah, no iframes on the dodge, so I guess we just got roasted by a Gorgon. Exactly what I thought was going to happen did indeed happen on that rise. Luckily, when I started off with my server settings, there's nothing I hate more than corpse runs. Corpse runs, easily the most outdated, boring, old mechanic ever existed in video games, like you dropping all your stuff on the ground. Meh. So I was able to disable it when I started out the game, so there's really not too much inconvenience to dying aside from having to go all the way back to base when you wander too far off the trail. So I figured here we'll just head back into the Dark Forest because after about 45 minutes of playing the game off camera here, I still haven't figured out how to make a smelter yet. It's not immediately apparent. I went through all the vendors, went through all the guys, tried to figure out where the blueprint for the smelter is at, and it's got to be in here, right? since this is the place where you get tin ore from. It's either got to be here or it's got to be inside the canyons. Ha-ha! So after a long while of wandering around, they added a quest to my quest log, and I didn't see it because I already had like 20 quests in there, to make a hammer that came off that vendor right there, but it has the exact same graphic in his inventory as the one that you make previously, so I thought it was the same hammer, and I just leapfrogged a step right there. I made the other hammer, and now we have access to all these goodies and things that I can build. So we should probably get underway, right? I mean, we've got like a forge station, so we need copper ingots for that. We're going to need this thing over here to process lumber. There's so many like benches that I'm going to need that I'm beginning to think that it's going to be possible that I'll have to build a second floor on this base. At least that's what it's feeling like to me right now. But we'll get the lumber mill down. And what's going on with the lumber mill? Oh, you just throw softwood in there and then it processes? Okay, they should probably have an add max button right there. Just manually feeding it on in is kind of a lot of finger bashing, but it looks like we are now getting lumber, which is really, really good, because we're going to need that for some other benches and things too. The downshot is I need to find a new resource that's called clay. Now, I know that the clay is not inside the Dark Forest because I have done every single activity inside the Dark Forest so far, so I don't think we need to go back there. But there is a big clay-colored area of the map up here called the Pindus Mountains. I bet you that's where we'll end up finding it. So let me figure my way on up the rise, which is made considerably easier by the fact that I can fly. That makes things much, much simpler. And then we'll see if we can find these goodies here, because I would love to tape some new armor onto my character or something before we let out for the day. So the big clay-colored zone came up goose eggs, didn't really have anything inside of it, but then I thought to myself, like, logically, where would clay be at, dude? Bro, you're a geologist. You shouldn't be struggling this hard with where to find clay. Clay is almost universally at the bottom of riverbeds, or at least dried-up riverbeds in geology, and so I thought maybe I'd go check by a river, and look at that. We were rewarded for our geological information in finding some clay. Now that the clay's all gathered up, that leaves us with really one other problem, which is that I don't really have a whole lot of softwood or anything left for us to grapple with here, and so I think I'm going to have to spend a little bit of time lumberjacking, and I just don't see a way around it. I think it's going to have to go down like that. Survival games and forcing you to chop down an endless amount of ad nauseum trees. Some things never change, no matter how long I stay in the industry. So I've got all my stuff spun up back here at base now that we have the things we need. One thing I do like about the game is that every single one of the crafting benches changes depending on whether or not it's in use or whether it's been stocked. Stuff like that. That's a nice little detail to see in a title like this, but I think we're going to need a little bit more stuff before we can do anything realistic here. But we got the money thing over here, which is the smelter. So let's put the smelter down. I've spent entirely too much time walking right past this thing. I need copper ore, and I just throw it in there. I don't need anything else. All right, dude. I think I can do that. Give me that copper ore right there and throw it on in there. It really should craft from your chest, though. So I got to add softwood. Oh, you do have to add the softwood to it. Gotcha. All right, I suppose that makes sense. My entire house is a towering blaze of industry right now. Processing speed on these ingots is positively glacial, so I think it's going to be a little while until we get the ingots on out of here so that we can make the next thing to start moving up the tier and get over into copper gear, and then after that, presumably, we'll be going after bronze, since I already found tin out in the forest. But I think I'm ready to sort of like tender my thoughts on this game as it sits right now. On the front end, I think the game looks absolutely fantastic. Everything from the animation of the main character to the rigging to the overall texturing style and the lighting effects. It's very clear that someone has put a lot of effort into making this game visually pop off the screen. There's also a lot of good quality of life inside of here, things that make the game much more simple. So, for example, having your character able to vacuum up all the resources that are all around you when they're laying on the ground. That's really good stuff right there. However, there is room for more quality of life. I found that the travel times in this game, that's what's going to eat up the vast majority of your time in this title when you're running around, is just going from point A to point B. There's a number of ways that they could deal with this. I do think the implementation of mounts or an even faster flight mode or like a shrine you can build next to your house that allows you to get like a permanent 30% movement speed as long as you're standing on a road would definitely help out a ton here, because with some of the locations that you're running to, I guess they must want you to make a satellite base, but I just can't be bothered to farm a little bit more to do it. But things like Hearthstone, something that takes you back to your saved bed would be really nice. A shrine that lets you teleport in between your bases may exist. I don't have multiple bases. Well, I do have multiple bases, technically. I have one on the starter island as well. But some kind of movement utility is going to be required in this game, just because the map is quite large and the amount of time it takes you to hoof it from point A to point B. Usually it's like, it can be almost nighttime by the time you get there, and travel without anything on the in-between, which leads us into the next problem. The world is more or less pretty sparse. There's not a whole lot inside of it, aside from shrines and mission-critical objectives that you have to hit. This is a map that dearly needs a lot more points of interest that are off the main storyline quest, random caves, random temples. It needs random adventuring areas, dungeons, stuff like that you can dive down to the bottom to find sick loot, or maybe to get something from the next tier up that you can't quite craft yet. There's not a whole lot of stuff other than the eyes on the prize objective of the game. You've got random missions for this guy over here, and you've got the main stuff like lighting the braziers and opening up the shrines and, you know, desecrating the gods' shrines and all that kind of stuff. But there needs to be more on the map. I think that the slow travel speed would not feel nearly so slow if the map was not nearly so empty. If there was just more things to catch your eye and keep you pushing out further and further and further to investigate what that is, I think the game would be in much better shape, and the amount of travel time that everything requires inside of it would feel much less obvious. God, I love the way it stacks up the ingots on the side right there. That is just uber satisfying. From there, I think the world needs a little bit more character. It needs a little bit more seasoning. It needs a little bit more flavor. It needs more NPCs that have dialogue and conversations with you that adapt as you go through the various quests and you light up different shrines. Things to keep you engaged with the premise and the universe itself. From there, I think the next cleanup point that the game has is that the combat feels crusty. It doesn't feel bad, but it doesn't feel good and fluid either. There seems to be sort of a mismatch between like animations linking into one another. So perfect pairing is always kind of like desynced and weird looking, almost like you're playing on a server with high latency. Attacks could have a little bit more impact to them. I did enjoy blocking, and I felt like that had the proper like clung to it when you blocked an enemy, but I do think that the combat is going to need to have an overhaul, because the fact of the matter is that there's just other survival games out there right now doing combat better than this game does combat. And it's really kind of odd. Like, it's a strange complaint to levy, because the animations themselves are good. It's almost like the way that the animations interact with one another being like all desynced, and all of them leading to a stun lock on you, but none of your attacks stun locking enemies. They can just power through an attack regardless of how you're pounding on them, even though they're way smaller than you. All of that stuff is going to have to be seen to get this game up to the level of a recommend for me. Little things like crafting out of chests would be appreciated, even if it ends up being like a magic chest that you get later on in the game that makes it a little bit simpler. Would love to see quality of life like that, but what we're left with at the end of the day with Dawn of Defiance is a game that has a lot of the pieces in the right place, and if it gets the polish and if it gets the cleanup that it deserves, I think you'll have a really cool survival game that's not really trying to push any boundaries. I honestly think that the superpower part of this game is something they should lean on much, much, much more heavily. Like, the superpowers and whatnot should be way more prominent. Like, really lean into that Titan Quest feeling of being on a hero's journey, a hero's odyssey through a Greco-Roman universe, fighting through things. That's, I think, this game's selling point, is like, how many survival games out there give you superpowers and blessings from the gods and whatnot, and just flat out allow you to, like, Homelander, Superman fly around. Like, that's really, really cool. Ooh, nice. We've got, I guess, a run speed buff right there, so that'll be good. That'll probably help me get through. I gotta hunt like 10 more of these little guys down out here so that I can get my paycheck. But as I was saying, this is one of those games that actually has a lot of its footing in the right spot. There's just things in there that I'd really like to see fixed, filled out, fleshed out. That may be a function of the game being in early access right now, why we're not seeing that. But until that stuff gets on in there, this is one of those games that I'm interested in, because I don't think there's any other Greco-Roman survival games out there for you to play at the moment. There's action RPGs, there's action games, there's obviously Assassin's Creed Odyssey and titles like that, but nothing like Conan Exiles that's set in Bronze Age Greece, which I think is a really solid premise and a really solid atmosphere to get this game up and off the ground and get it raising people's eyebrows. It's just that this is clearly like the earlier end of early access. I'm impressed with some aspects of it, and then other aspects of it I'm like, oh, we got to clean that up like right this second, because that's not going to work for me. And so it's kind of like middling for me right now. And so it's kind of in that spot where I can see the shine, I can see the gold down underneath there. They've got that all set up. But there are definitely going to have to be some things cleaned up before it would be a game that I spend a ton of time dumping on into. But the premise and, you know, the setting are really, really working for me and really trying to taunt me into playing it. It's doing a lot of the heavy lifting. And so my name is Splattercat. This is Dawn of Defiance, where we are attempting to overthrow the gods, and I just got smashed in the face with a giant hammer, and the whole thing was miserable, and I hated it all the way through. Getting smashed in the face with a hammer, that is. Oh, I got smashed in the face with, well, what better way to end an episode than me getting positively deleted by some guy's mallet. But I've been enjoying what I've seen so far right now. It's not really like innovating or doing anything new that we haven't seen outside of the superpowers, but within the realm of giving you a different setting and a different flavor to survival sandboxes you've played previously, it is doing that, and I, being a big fan of sort of phalanx-style spear-fighting Greco-Roman games, I want to be super into this game. And so hopefully it gets the love and touch and squeeze and polish that it deserves as it moves its way through early access. For right now, I've put 4 or 5 hours into it, and I haven't quit yet, and I did enjoy the time that I spent in that 4 or 5 hours, but it was not without things that I noticed that I was like, okay, so they're going to have to like populate the map a whole lot more, they're going to have to clean up the combat. You know, the game is clearly designed for team play, so when you're playing single player, you're probably going to want to give yourself a little bit of a boost to your DPS, a little bit of a boost to your HP, maybe nerf the enemy's HP a little bit, because some of the fights that I've gone into are like 15v1s, where you can definitely tell that you're supposed to have a team with you right here, kind of cleaving through the enemy. However, it is nice that the single-player mode does have like manual saving and can be played offline and that kind of stuff when I had my internet disconnected just to test it. And so, like I said, a really mixed bag here. There's some stuff that I really like about it, and there's some stuff that I'm really thankful for in the quality of life, and then there's other things that I foresee being potential problems if they don't get that sorted out as they go further on into their early access journey. My name is Splattercat. I sift through the pile to find what's worthwhile in the world of indie games every single day so you don't have to. Today up on the chopping block, interesting little survival game that I'll be keeping my eye on as it moves through its early access, because I can feel its siren's call pulling me towards it. I definitely want to have, like, you know, segmentatas for chest pieces and cool, awesome headdresses on my helmet and things of that nature. I think everybody's a big fan of Spartacus. Everybody's a big fan of Leonidas. Everybody's a big fan of Achilles all these thousands of years later. And so it's definitely a scene setting that my appetite is primed for, but we'll see where it goes. I'll see y'all next time. Thanks for hanging out, and that's about all I got for you. Bye, folks.